Everyone, let's begin with a question, not just to hear, but to feel. What if your faith was not something outside of you, but the very energy that sustains your being? We often speak of God as though we are separate from him, as though he's watching from a distance, selectively responding to our cries. But the truth is far more intimate, far more powerful. God is not distant. God is now. God is here. And more profoundly, God is within. You are not simply a body moving through time. You are consciousness housed in a temple of biology. You are awareness, capable of reshaping your world through intention, belief, and alignment with the divine. And when you choose faith, not blind, wishful faith, but embodied, living faith, you unlock something incredible. God's strength is your source. Now let's talk about what that means. When you elevate your faith, you are elevating your frequency. Yes, your biology responds, your brain changes. Your heart rhythms shift. Your electromagnetic field begins to radiate a new signal, a signal of trust, of surrender, of possibility. They're contracts. Faith expands. Fear says, what if I fail? Faith says, what if God already made a way? Fear relies on effort. Faith flows with alignment. You see, every thought you think sends a signal out, and every emotion you feel brings that signal back into your body. When you meditate, pray, or even imagine a future where you are walking in divine strength, you are rehearsing the mind and body into a new state of being. The universe, or rather God's design, is not chaotic. It's responsive, it's intelligent, and it meets you not at your words, but at your vibration. So what would it mean to vibrate at the level of faith? It means you wake up not asking what might go wrong, but declaring, I walk with strength not my own. It means your identity is no longer built on your past, but on the vision of who you are becoming through him. Let's get real. Your circumstances might not change immediately. And when you change, when you embody faith instead of fear, you become a magnet for the very breakthrough you once begged for. God is your strength not because he fixes everything for you, but because he activates the power through you. The strength of God is not just an idea. It is an energetic, emotional, neurological reality that you can feel, that you can live from. It's the strength that holds galaxies together, and it lives in you. So today I invite you to elevate your faith. Not by trying harder, but by surrendering deeper. Not by forcing outcomes, but by embodying the future you were created for. Not by surviving on willpower, but by living in God power. Because when God is your strength, fear no longer has a foothold. When God is your strength, you don't chase, you attract, you attract. When God is your strength, you don't just believe in miracles, you become one. Let's elevate, let's align, let's rise in faith, and let's become the living evidence that God is still moving, still healing, still strengthening, and still with us. Faith is not belief. It's a state of being. Belief is often rooted in the intellect, in concepts we agree with mentally. It's saying, believe this is true, while still holding on to doubt, hesitation, or fear. But faith, real, embodied faith, is something entirely different. It's not just what you think is true, it's what you know deep within your nervous system, your heart, and your soul. Faith is when your body, your energy, and your consciousness come into alignment with a greater intelligence, and you begin to live as if the outcome is already done. It's a shift from waiting to walking in it. You don't just hope for healing, you become the healed. You don't just ask for peace, you radiate peace. This state of being isn't forced through willpower. It's cultivated through stillness, intention, and surrender. It's the result of stepping beyond the old self, the one conditioned by past pain, limitation, and fear, and tuning into a higher frequency, a divine intelligence that's always present but often drowned out by mental noise. When you're in a true state of faith, your body begins to feel safe in the unknown. Your brain stops firing survival patterns and starts wiring new possibilities. You begin to feel elevated emotions, gratitude, joy, trust, before the external world gives you a reason. That's when the shift happens. You move from reaction to creation. In this space, faith isn't something you call upon only in crisis. It becomes your baseline. It becomes the energy you carry into every decision, every relationship, every challenge. You're no longer looking for evidence. You are the evidence. You are the evidence. Your presence begins to speak a language of certainty, of divine trust, of inner knowing that transcends logic. This is where transformation begins, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. God's strength is activated through alignment, not effort. Many people are taught to push, strive, and hustle their way toward breakthrough, believing that if they just try hard enough, God will eventually respond. But divine strength doesn't flow through force. It flows through surrender. Alignment is about coming into harmony with the mind of God, the frequency of peace, and the energy of trust. It's not about how much you can do. It's about how deeply you can allow. Effort is rooted in survival. It's the nervous system trying to control every outcome, trying to avoid pain, trying to predict and manipulate the future. But God doesn't move through anxiety. He moves through presence. When you align yourself with divine truth, when your thoughts reflect His promises, your emotions rest in His peace, and your actions mirror your faith, you become a vessel for strength beyond your own. That's when supernatural endurance begins to emerge, not from striving, but from stillness. Alignment means your internal world is congruent with the vision you hold. You're not praying for one thing while preparing for the opposite. You're not asking for abundance while embodying fear of lack. You're not seeking healing while rehearsing sickness in your mind. You are tuned into the frequency of the outcome you trust is already done. This opens you to receive God's strength, not in spurts or glimpses, but as a steady current that sustains you. In alignment, your body relaxes, your heart opens, and your mind becomes clear. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop performing and start receiving. You become a match for the very strength you once believed was reserved for the extraordinary. Because alignment isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, being willing, and being in tune with the greater force that's already working on your behalf. Your thoughts and emotions are your prayers in motion. Prayer is often seen as spoken words directed toward a distant God asking for help, intervention, or change. But in truth, every thought you repeat and every emotion you dwell in becomes a signal, a broadcast, a form of communication with the divine. You are always in conversation with God, not just when you kneel or speak out loud, but through the frequency you emit every moment of the day. Your internal state is your loudest. When you think thoughts of fear, lack, or limitation and pair them with feelings of anxiety or hopelessness, you are unintentionally affirming that reality. You're telling the universe, your body, and your future, this is what I believe in. But when your thoughts become aligned with truth, with possibility, and your emotions begin to reflect gratitude, trust, and joy, even before circumstances give you a reason, that is when you begin to co-create with God. You stop reacting and start designing. This is not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is. It's about becoming conscious of the energy you're sending out and choosing to become intentional with your inner world. Because your thoughts have a measurable electrical charge and your emotions carry a magnetic pull, together they create the field in which your life unfolds. If your thoughts are the blueprint, your emotions are the fuel. They shape not only your behavior, but the outcomes you attract. So if you want to change your life, begin by noticing the story you're repeating in your mind and the feelings you're nurturing in your heart. Are they prayers of faith or fear? Are they aligned with who God says you are or with the version of you that's been shaped by the past? Elevated faith rewires your brain and body for transformation. Faith isn't just a spiritual concept, it's a biological reality. When you move into a state of elevated faith, you're not only believing differently, you're thinking differently, feeling differently, and signaling your entire system to operate from a new level of consciousness. Your brain is constantly adapting to your internal world, and when you sustain thoughts of trust, hope, and divine expectation, your neural networks begin to reorganize. Old patterns of fear, doubt, and survival start to dissolve, making space for new pathways of clarity, vision, and strength. Your body follows your mind. If your brain is conditioned by the past, by trauma, loss, or disappointment, your body stays in a loop of stress chemistry. Cortisol, adrenaline, and tension become your normal. But when you elevate your faith, when you choose to believe in a future that hasn't happened yet and emotionally connect to that reality, your body begins to experience a different kind of chemistry. Oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins flow. Your nervous system shifts from survival to creation. Your heart rate steadies. Your breath deepens. You begin to feel connected, grounded, and aligned. Transformation doesn't begin with changing your external world. It begins with shifting your inner environment. When faith becomes your dominant state, your biology reflects that change. You think clearer, you respond slower, you love deeper, you stop needing proof before you believe because your mind and body are already experiencing the result of what your spirit knows to be true. And that embodied faith is what draws the unseen into the seen. It's what prepares your vessel for the miracles you're asking for. You're not just believing for change, you're becoming the change. From the inside out, one thought, one emotion, one elevated moment of faith at a time. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Desire alone doesn't create change. Wishing, hoping, or wanting something to happen isn't enough to draw it into your life. What brings transformation is embodiment, the internal shift where you become the living expression of the outcome you seek. The energy you hold, the emotions you consistently feel, and the thoughts you dwell in are what shape your reality. They form the energetic blueprint that magnetizes experiences, people, and opportunities that resonate with who you are being. If you want peace but carry constant stress, you're tuned to the frequency of chaos. If you desire love but live in self-rejection, you're not in alignment with receiving what you're asking for. The external world mirrors your internal state. It reflects back to you what you consistently broadcast, not just with your words, but with your vibration, your emotional baseline, your expectations, your subconscious beliefs. This is why deep, lasting transformation happens when you shift your identity, not just your goals. It's not about forcing outcomes. It's about becoming the version of you who already lives in that reality. When you feel abundant before the money arrives, when you practice gratitude before the breakthrough, when you choose joy even in uncertainty, you are aligning with the outcome on a level that transcends logic. You are training your nervous system, your heart, and your consciousness to be a magnet for divine alignment. This inner work is where true faith lives. It's not passive and it's not performative. It's deliberate, quiet, and powerful. It's the act of choosing to live as though your prayer is already answered. And as you hold that frequency consistently, reality has no choice but to respond. Not because you forced it, but because you became it. Living in faith means embodying the future before it arrives. It's the ability to feel the outcome as if it's already happened, to walk in the energy of completion rather than the fear of delay. Faith is not passive waiting, it's active alignment. It's choosing to speak, think, and move from the version of yourself who already holds the answer, already carries the healing, already lives in the breakthrough. When you live in faith, your body no longer waits for physical evidence to feel safe, secure, or empowered. It begins to experience the future in the present moment. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between an experience that's real and one that's vividly imagined with emotional intensity. So when you repeatedly envision the life you desire, feel gratitude for it, and embody the emotions of already having it, your brain begins to wire as if it's true. Your body begins to respond as if it's already there. This is not make-believe. It's spiritual and neurological coherence. It's how you draw the unseen into the seen, not through force, but through frequency. This kind of faith transforms your posture, your language, your decisions. You no longer speak from fear, you speak from knowing. You no longer act from lack, you act from overflow. You're not trying to create the future. You're remembering who you already are in it. That remembrance rewires your identity and sends a powerful signal to the divine. You're ready, not because you're striving, but because you've surrendered to the truth that God exists outside of time. When you align with that truth, you pull the future into the now. You begin to live in a way that tells heaven and earth you're not hoping anymore. You're already home in the outcome. Your spirit has seen fears memorize survival. Faith is conscious creation. Fear is not just an emotion. It's a program, a pattern that lives in the body and the subconscious mind. It's the residue of past experiences, disappointments, and traumas that have been rehearsed so many times they become automatic. When something triggers that fear, the body reacts before the conscious mind has a chance to choose. The heart races, the breath shortens, and thoughts spiral into what could go wrong. This is the survival state, a loop the body knows all too well. It's not always logical, but it's deeply familiar. Faith, on the other hand, is not a reflex. It's a choice. It requires presence, intention, and awareness. Faith is stepping out of the memorized past and choosing a new possibility. It's the act of creating a future not based on fear of repetition, but based on trust in divine design. While fear pulls from memory, faith pulls from vision. Faith imagines something greater, something unseen, and it chooses to feel safe in that unknown. It builds new emotional muscle. It speaks a new language to the body, telling it we are no longer just surviving, we are expanding. We are expanding. When you move out of survival mode, your biology shifts. Stress hormones decrease, and your creative mind activates. Your heart opens. You begin to see options you couldn't see when fear was in control. Conscious creation becomes available to you because you're no longer reacting to what was, you're responding to what could be. This is how faith becomes a higher intelligence. It teaches the body a new way to live. It reclaims your power from old stories and invites you to participate in a life authored by the divine, not dictated by the past. Faith is not ignoring fear. It's overriding it with purpose. The divine responds to coherence, not chaos. Coherence is the inner alignment of your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and actions. It's when your head, heart, and body are moving in harmony, sending a clear and unified signal to the field of possibility around you. When you're coherent, you become a tuning fork for the divine. Your energy is steady, your intentions are focused, and your state of being reflects clarity, not confusion. In that space, you are open, receptive, and in tune with the frequency where miracles begin to take shape. Chaos, on the other hand, is fragmentation. It's thinking one thing, feeling another, and doing something completely different. It's praying for peace while living in panic, asking for abundance while rehearsing lack, seeking healing while holding on to unspoken grief. This internal dissonance creates noise in your energy field. The signal you're sending becomes scattered, and the divine can't flow through distortion. It's not that God withholds blessings. It's that your channel is too cluttered to receive. Coherence isn't perfection, it's presence. It's choosing to center yourself in the moment, to breathe, to align your mind with truth, your heart with trust, and your body with calm. When you enter that space of coherence, your brainwaves become more organized, your heart rhythm becomes smoother, and your body shifts into a state of balance. You become a vessel that can hold and embody what you're asking for. This is why spiritual practices like meditation, worship, breathwork, or stillness are so powerful. Not because they impress God, but because they bring you into coherence. They quiet the chaos long enough for you to feel the frequency of divine intelligence, to hear what you've been too distracted to notice, and to finally match the energy of what your soul has been reaching for. Your energy introduces you before your words do. Long before you speak, long before you take action, the energy you carry enters the room. It precedes you, communicates on your behalf, and sets the tone for everything that follows. This energy is not just what you project with your body language or voice, but the invisible field created by your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Every moment, whether you are consciously aware of it or not, you are emitting a frequency, vibration that interacts with the world around you. And the people, situations, and opportunities that come into your life are often a direct reflection of the energy you are putting out. What's important to realize is that your energy is not just passive, it's magnetic. It attracts what is aligned with it. If you walk into a room with anxiety, doubt, or fear, people can feel it even if you never say a word. On the other hand, when you walk into a space with confidence, calm, and peace, that energy becomes a magnet, drawing those same qualities toward you. This is why emotional and mental alignment is so crucial to living the life you desire. If your inner world is chaotic, your outer world will mirror that chaos. If your inner world is grounded in faith, trust, and divine purpose, your environment begins to reflect those qualities as well. Your energy is the most authentic form of communication you have. It's more telling than your words, more powerful than your actions, and often more compelling than you realize. It can influence relationships, opportunities, and even your health. What you carry inside, whether you are conscious of it or not, impacts every interaction you have and shapes the reality you walk into each day. The key is not just to act with intention, but to live with awareness of the energy you are broadcasting at all times. When God is your strength, you move from force to flow. Force is the energy of struggle, resistance, and pushing against life. It's trying to make things happen by sheer willpower, often driven by fear, doubt, or the need to control. In the forceful state, you work hard, but it often feels like you're fighting against the current, and the results, if they come at all, are hard-won and fleeting. It's an exhausting cycle of effort, burnout, and frustration. You try and you try again, yet the sense of ease and fulfillment remains out of reach. Flow, however, is different. Flow is the state of effortless alignment where the universe or God moves through you. It's the recognition that you don't have to fight life, you don't have to manipulate circumstances, because you are already in harmony with them. Flow is the natural current of grace and ease that begins when you surrender your need to control and trust that God is guiding your steps. It's not that you do nothing. It's that you do everything from a place of peace, clarity, and confidence, allowing divine strength to work through you instead of relying solely on your own effort. When God is your strength, you stop looking at obstacles as things to be conquered and instead see them as opportunities to trust more deeply, to let go more fully, and to align with a greater wisdom. You begin to understand that true power isn't in forcing the outcome, but in surrendering to the process, trusting that the divine is already at work. You move through life with less struggle and more grace, understanding that you are not in this alone and that when you flow with God, the weight of the world no longer feels so heavy.